came here especially for the water. We wanted to see the water. Where is it now? Is it picking up? We do know that lots of the farmers use the water in this area to water their farms. Sorry for this, but farms is food. The water should be about there where the hill starts. You see where the tree line is? The water usually is there. But unfortunately it hasn't picked up much yet. So our greatest concern is we're going to sit in a drought again, and it's going to be worse than the summer past. We still notice there's no water. We see the rain, yes we do, but it's not enough. Not for the amount of people that live in Cape Town. It's usually much fuller, much fuller.
Now we must confess water by new lands, because the water is almost done. Water is very nice and cold. Water is very fresh and lekker. Water.
Every day, people in Cape Town stand in a queue to collect water. They can spend hours and hours before their turn arrives, just to fill a tank with 50 litres of water. For about 2 years, a severe water shortage has been striking the Western Cape, and the level of dams has dramatically lowered.
We need water for our environment to drink.
People were starting to collect water at natural water sources, and you'd see queues early in the morning of old people walking around with heavy drums of water because they didn't have drinking water at home. And a lot of people that have households of more than 3 were trying to avoid having the water cut off in the daytime. And driving as far as 15 kilometers away from this area to get 50 liters of water, you could only take 2 drums, which is 25 and 25, which is 50. So those kind of things became very difficult, and people started stocking up on water. Water also has become very expensive, bottled water in Cape Town. Water is a heavy commodity. It's not something you can easily transport. It's not something you can say, okay, you know, for example, if it gets to the point where they switch our taps off, and we are allocated 50 liters per person, we 5 people, so that's 250 liters we will get for the day. To transport 250 liters of water is no joke. So what about the people that don't have cars?
And the space it takes up to store. I mean, those cans are not small.
Yeah.
Most people won't have the space to store water.
And a lot of people in Cape Town, the poorer people in Cape Town, don't have cars, so how are they going to transport 100 kilograms of water every day? We're fortunate, we've got a 4x4 that we can put full of water. But I mean, the average person can't travel in public transport, can't travel in taxis with 100 liters of water with them. And if you look at the logistics behind it, so how does that work for the average family? You have to leave and go fetch water, one of the parents, and then go back to work the next day and do the same thing again. So how's that logistically going to work also in terms of us as a population? How are we going to actually collect water after work? Is work going to give us time off? So those kind of things, it leaves a big void, and it leaves a lot of questions to be answered, and it's also very scary because we don't know how the logistics will work the day that our taps do get shut off. How will we get drinking water? So, and I mean, for the people that can't afford to go into Woolworths or Pick n Pay and buy water, what are they going to do?
Water is essential for everyone in everyday life. We use water for drinking, washing, cooking, and also for watering plants. Are we really aware of how much water we use? To flush the toilet, you need 10 litres. When you stay under the shower for 10 minutes, you're using 100 litres. For a standard wash, the dishwasher consumes 30 litres, and the washing machine uses 60 litres for cleaning your clothes. If we sum all of these activities, we consume about 200 litres of water per day, which is 4 times more than Cape Townians' consumption, using 50 litres per day. How much water is 50 litres? You can have no more than a 2-minute long shower, flush the toilet just once, do the dishes instead of using the dishwasher, brush your teeth without leaving the tap on, and a few other things, such as cooking and cleaning the house.
The 50 litre per person per day make provision for 9 litres per person to flush the toilet. In other words, it's basically one flush per day. But if you go beyond that, where will the water come from to flush the toilet? So it can create a huge health problem.
Still, we try to get under 50 litres per person here, because we all have to. But like they said now, that 2 years from now we don't have to, but I think we still have to, because it's also it costs you more to. And I only take this water that I took now, it's for drinking only. Maybe to wash the dishes and stuff, but that's all. We don't wash with that or whatever. It's too pure to wash with.
Day zero will be chaotic, and we must at all costs avoid that.
I don't know what the government's plans are. I actually tried staying out of politics. But as I heard on the radio people talking, and the government is talking about other countries that's going to help us, and then I think that they are trying. It is unknown ground for us, for all of us. If you work for the government or the normal people, we don't know what it is not to have water.
So dams are an obvious way and probably in the long term the cheapest way of storing large quantities of water. We've got a little less water than what we had in 2015. And if we project that towards the end of October, the end of our hydrological year, we should have about 65%. That's about danger zone, because from the end of October, we enter this long, hot, dry summer. Well, we've still got a period of uncertainty, so we have still got a couple of months to go. The next 6 to 8 weeks are going to be quite crucial. Our dams fill up at about 2% every week. We've been lucky that they've filled up over the last 3 weeks, each week between 5 and 6%, which has been quite remarkable. We have a high-pressure system called the Atlantic high-pressure system, and that system is what really dominates our weather patterns. And during the winter time, that high-pressure system migrates further northwards, or at least it should. It hasn't moved northwards towards the equator at all. It's raining out to sea. We can see them there. We just can't bring them into the land where we need them. And we don't really know why that Atlantic system is dominant. It's possible that the ocean is, through warming of the global temperatures, the oceans are warming, and it's causing the dominant effect for this high pressure system to be sitting there for so long. The temperature in the Western Cape region here seems to have risen by about 1.2 degrees Celsius. And in the next 30 to 50 years, that temperature can equally rise.
Now, when you're talking about drought, you also get worried of temperatures, especially if they are going to be high. We all know the role of temperatures in terms of contributing towards high evaporation, and then that affecting our dam levels, and then consequently we'll be sitting with all these problems. The records that we have for the Western Cape, they're starting from 1900, and during that period in 1911, generally there was above normal rainfall experienced over the Western Cape. And then that was followed by a period of dry, it was a long dry period. Then that was followed by a period of fairly variations of normal rainfall with below normal rainfall spikes and above normal rainfall spikes. Average annual rainfall for the Western Cape is just over 500 millimeters. And in 2017, we had nearly close to 350 millimeters. And currently, we're sitting at around 200 millimeters for 2018. We are not even halfway to that 500 millimeters. We are still way below our average annual rainfall. So that is quite worrying that we have entered this dry period, and it seems we're still in the beginning, and it may actually continue for some extended period.
The drought has paralyzed the entire region. Seasons have become more and more anomalous, and the rainfall amount has decreased. In this situation, most working activities based on weather trends have been brought to their knees.
is die eerste droogte in mensenjegenis. Die laaste 100-120 jaar was dit nog nooit so droog soos nou nie. Dit is die eerste keer in my leeftyd en baie van ons ouer mense se leeftyd dat damme nie water in het nie. En soos julle self kan sien buite is dit baie droog. Daar's niks vir die diere om te eet nie. Elke krieseltjie kos wat die diere kry moet ons vir hom aanry, meng, gee elke dag, 2 keer 'n dag kry al die diere kos om net te oorleef. Ek meen ons is besig met 'n oorlewingsstryd met die diere ook maar. En ja, ons is, as ek jou gesê het, ons moet alles aanry. Dit kos my geld om my bakkies daar te laat hardloop en terug te laat hardloop in die voere. En waar ons in 'n kuddeboufase moes gewees het nou na verlede jaar se droogte, skaal ons nou nog meer af. En so ons pomp al die water onder uit die rivier uit vir die diere. Mens sit my elke keer 'n stukkie pyp aan en maak die pompe maar groter en sterker of sit pompe tussenin om die water verder te vat. En dit is nogal 'n daaglikse verantwoordelikheid van die manne op die plaas.
A lorry if you want it bills cost us around
Daar is ongelukkig baie boere wat nie meer kan bekostig om te voer nie. Dit is so. As dele wat baie diere doodgaan. As gevolg van die droogte. En dit is tragies dat dit gebeur. Dit is regtig tragies dat dit gebeur. En as jy ook nie geld het nie, dan kan jy nie kos koop nie. Dit is nou maar so.
When we started the sanctuary, we thought we would have enough water to come here and to have the horses on the premises. When they dried up, now we have to go 3 kilometers, as you saw, up and down, go get the water, which is diesel. It's time. We have to basically nearly pay one person to drive up and down for the day to get water. And it's not just us as a sanctuary, there's lots of different sanctuaries, there's dogs, cats, everything. But for us specifically, when we get a horse in here, they are in dire conditions. I mean, they need water, they need enough water. We have to give them water. So it's never been this hard on us. This all used to flow from at the top and go right through, right down to the bottom. All those dips that we went through, that was all full of water. Now, as you can see, this dry. After all the rain we've had, you can't even see a little bit of growth or anything here. Yeah, it's bad. And that's so. If we can't grow and if we don't have water, it's so hard, and we can't stop rescuing. There's so many people that need our help that don't have water either, and they can't look after the horses because of it. So the horses suffer, animals suffer, we suffer. People really don't understand how severe it is.
Letterlik mense met al hulle water aanry. Baie huise het nie meer drinkwater nie. Hulle ry water van die dorp af aan. Baie boere het geen water op die plaas en hulle kry by mense wat fonteine het op hulle plase, gaan haal hulle water. En soos een boer gister my sê, as die fonteine opdroog, waar kry ons dan water? Dan het niemand water. So dit raak 'n groot probleem. Kos kan ons koop, maar water kan jy nie koop. Daar's altyd plekke in 'n land wat goeie kos het, maar water is beperk. So dit is regtig 'n groot probleem vir ons. Dit kos ons baie geld op die oomblik. Al die voere moet gekoop word, soos ek al gesê het. Ons kan nie ons kuddes vergroot nie. Eintlik verklein ons kuddes. Ons hou net die kernkudde oor waarmee ons boer, net die beste ooe, die beste koeie op die plaas oor. Om 'n voorbeeld te gee, ons het so plus minus 50 beeste gehad. Ek dink is nou 20 op die plaas oor, soos ons maar minder gemaak het. Skaapgetalle hou ons redelik konstant. 'n Skaap drink nie so baie water en eet nie so baie nie, so dit is makliker om te voer en intensief om te boer is met 'n bees. Jy moet 'n bees met jou infrastruktuur baie goed ingerig wees om dit te doen. Skaal ons nog meer af. Ek kan vir jou algemeen die Weskaap het so 2 miljoen skape. En die kudde is so 30% kleiner, so 600,000 skaap minder op die oomblik in die Weskaap. As my somme my nie in die steek laat, moet dit so 600,000 skaap nou minder wees. So dit het regtig 'n groot effek op die hele bedryf. Dis nou maar geskatte getalle wat ons kry. Ons probeer so akkuraat as moontlik wees, maar hy gaan nooit regtig akkuraat wees nie. Maar ja, dit het 'n groot finansiële invloed ook so. Die verlies aan die skape is 1.8 biljoen rand. As jy die BTW daarop gaan werk, is dit baie geld wat die staat verloor. Ek dink is so 384 miljoen, as ek so vinnig my somme my in die steek laat, jy kan dit self gaan uitwerk. En die wol is nog 'n groot effek, wat ons nou minder wol skeer. Dis baie geld wat daar minder inkom, is ook 'n paar 100 miljoen.
That agriculture lost 5.9 billion rand this year due to the drought. And also one of the severe implications is approximately 30,000 seasonal workers lost their jobs. And remember, those people, they're not permanently employed, but they, over the years, they've grown accustomed to having a job for 5 or 6 months of the year, harvesting or picking vegetables or planting vegetables or whatever they're doing. And that was part of their survival, that 5 or 6 months. And now all of a sudden, there was no water to plant vegetables. There were very reduced number of fruit that had to be harvested, or grapes that had to be harvested. So about 30,000 people actually had no income or very, very reduced income. And now I think about the socioeconomic impact of that. You know, you cannot tell a sheep, we're going to reduce your water by 50% now. Yeah? A tree still requires a certain amount of water. As soon as you start giving it less water, something will happen. You will have smaller fruit, which the price drops, you can't export it, or you will have no fruit at all.
Rapeseed crops should be at least 1.5 meters tall during the wet season. But the water crisis has allowed only limited growth of the plants. Farmers start to be afraid.
My greatest fear is we've lost one borehole. We've only got one left. You saw all the dams are empty. There's nothing. We've had all this rain that we've had. There's nothing. There's nothing in the dam. So my greatest fear is if that borehole dries up, what do we do? We don't know how much water's left there. So when that water's finished, it's finished. And then we got nothing. We got nothing on the property, and that is a very scary thought. I've never seen it ever this bad, ever. I mean, it's scary when especially when we come out in the day and you see those dams dry, empty. I mean, we see the rain and we think, oh yes. And the next day you go there and there's no water. It's so dry, it just sinks away. So for me, it's the most scariest thing ever to do that drive and to think, I mean, how much water's left? That's very, very scary. I know people, when they say we're in a drought-stricken area, and then you see these people just not caring and don't believe how real it is. I mean, they just need to come and look at our property. I mean, we've got 4 or 5 dams, and on one dam with water, I mean, there is no water.
The drop in field productivity due to the lack of water and stock rearing have become very expensive. The drought is a widespread issue, able to even stop a country and massively affecting exports. It also raises a condition of food insecurity. Why has nothing been done in all these years?
We do have all types of predictions that we want. We're doing 7-day forecast predictions. You get your seasonal forecasts, and then you also have your climate change projections. When you're talking climate change, we're talking projections, but with our medium and long term, it's predictions. Climate change projections are uncertain. However, they only give us an indication to prepare. If it's giving us a worst case scenario, that is still fine because we can prepare for the worst. You know, when you are hit by a disaster and you are prepared, the impact may be minimal, unlike when you are not prepared. Even if you spend money or you invest in some measures to prevent drought, I don't think it should be looked at as a loss.
A lot of people ask the question, why haven't they embarked on the building of a desal plant? And if you look what happened in Australia, for example, during their millennium drought, they decided to build 6 desal plants. Before the 5 on the east coast was completed, it started raining again. And those plants were never put into operation, they were mothballed. Now, if the city, for example, decided to build a desal plant in 2015, and we didn't have bad years, we might have ended up in the same situation where we had a plant that we need to pay for that's mothballed and not producing water. If on the other hand they have started on that, it would have been able to take us through this crisis now. So it's a very difficult decision to make on whether you're going to do it or not. And that's once again, that's where government need to come in.
There are places forgotten by the government where the water crisis has hit far more harshly. In these areas of the city, day zero seems to have arrived already.
Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mzuki Silembeni. We're going to go to the township called Khayelitsha. Khayelitsha is the biggest township in the Western Cape. It's the biggest township in South Africa. The population of Khayelitsha in 2016, they said in Khayelitsha we are plus minus 2.5 million people. Even our government, it's difficult to make a proper calculation because of the informal settlement. Yeah, so what happened is we're facing a big challenge, especially in this area. This area we call Harare, the area behind me, we call Harare. Water sometimes is a big challenge because most of the local people, they need to go to the one tap and they make a long queue. They're carrying about 25-foot buckets. And yeah, it's very challenging, and also in terms of the restrooms, it's very hard for them as well. As we know that in Cape Town, they say we're facing a big challenge with water. We'll leave day zero from day one, because what we do, we save water. We're using the small bucket to do the washing, to take our bath as well. That's the thing.
I go there every day, sometimes pick up 3 buckets, but it's not always clean. Sometimes it's dirty, you see. Then we have to boil it before we use it, before we drink it. And the tap, when we open the tap, the water becomes so slowly. It comes slowly. Sometimes it's a long queue. Almost everyone, more especially on Sunday. Today, there's going to be a lot of buckets there on the tap, and all of us will wait there. Sometimes if you are waiting there in the queue, you get your water after an hour or 2 or so.
Website there. It's nothing coming, man.
And we only have one tap. We came all the way from here down there to collect water. Actually, I don't know. I thought maybe the rain was going to help, but it seems as if it will always remain like this. We'll have it coming out slowly out of the tap. So
Many times, the police must carry out raids in the townships in order to seize the drinking water used by the so-called informal car wash.
We're facing a problem with the car wash because some of the car wash, they need to have to close because they use water. But the sad part is now, if you close the car wash, and then it's very, very bad for those small boys that do the car wash because they do that for living to support their families. If you close the car wash, it means now the crime in the township will be a little bit high.
How do we get water? We must jump over the fences to go and steal water. If we've been caught, then we go to prisons just to drink water of thirsty. We must wash ourselves, we must wash our clothes. Now they close the toilets and they took off the how can you say the tops to let the water come out, and I think it's very wrong.
To save as much water as possible, the city closed public toilets and removed the taps from all public centres, from the airport to fountains. Homeless people need to rely on solidarity centres and NGOs to obtain drinking water.
And the homeless are categorized as a vulnerable group. They are a vulnerable group. They are the vulnerablest of all. They are compromised immunity. Their immunity is compromised. They are HIV positive. They've got TB. They need clean water. They need to be clean as well. And you might think that the homeless people don't like being clean. They like to wash. They like to brush their teeth and they like to wash. Serve them over here. So the homeless people get water now, and the tap heads have been turned off in the city. They either steal water, they climb over fences and steal water from homes in the area, or they go to construction sites and they steal water from the construction sites where they've got running water, or they walk very, very far to some of the streams up at Table Mountain. It takes them about an hour to walk up there, and they collect their water. I have seen some of the homeless actually taking water from lifting up the sort of steel things in the ground and lifting those up and stealing water from the municipal outlets. They've been told they cannot take water from there because they found dead rats in that water, so that water is contaminated and really quite dangerous for them to drink.
And it's linked to the community court. And if they work in the garden, they get a token and they can pay for their food with a token. So it's all linked.
We at the service dining rooms are providing water at lunchtime. At 11:30 we give a cooked meal and we supply water. And the homeless are coming in, they can have as much water to drink while they're eating, and then they also bring their water bottles and they fill those up. We are being charged a tariff, the high tariff for that. We haven't been given exemption on the tariff. We estimate we use 550 litres of water a day. That's for cleaning, cooking and providing water to the homeless. But my homeless are coming to tell me that day zero is over now. Why can't they have the water back? They don't understand that even though it's been raining, there's still going to be a shortage of water. No, just the city of Cape Town that's short of water, it's the Northern Cape. And that's another thing. When we had the real drought in the summer, the homeless were coming from Beaufort West to Cape Town because they didn't have water in Beaufort West. So the homeless population actually increased, and that is putting extra pressure on us. And the city haven't come forward with an idea or a plan on how to provide the basic human right of water to the home. I mean, I've worked with the homeless for 29 years and there's never been a shortage of water. Never. And the homeless come and ask all the time, can they have water? And we've always given. Now we're getting quite edgy and saying, well, you must stop asking. We can't keep giving either. We are paying a huge amount for water every month. A huge amount. I mean, people think about the load shedding with the electricity. This is nothing compared to the water shortage.
When there's a crisis, it is important to maintain the spirit of sharing towards the weakest. Because of this, the service dining room has started to grow vegetables for the homeless people. The supermarket nearby gives them a hand collecting the scraps from air conditioning so they can water the garden.
We always try as a business to help the homeless people because obviously nobody else does it better than the businesses themselves. We all are helping the city because the city needs help, otherwise we're going to reach day zero. So they've approached us and said, okay, this is how we're going to be able to help you, and they're very appreciative of it.
Okay.
Rain has been unexpected and has brought relief to citizens who carry on maintaining a moderate use of water, avoiding every possible waste. It is incredible how it's possible to save water just by modifying a few small daily routines.
Litres a day it can go far, but depending on what you need to do. If you have washing and stuff to do, it's not enough. But if it's just for your general cooking and that's it, then it's fine. You can make it work. I think how we found it a bit easier is because we're not at home for most of the day, we're out working, kids are at school, 50 litres per person was sufficient. It's a bit difficult though, you don't realize how wasteful you were before. You had that restriction. You know, you took it for granted that you could just always open the tap and just let it run for 30 seconds while you're gathering something somewhere else. But no longer can you do that, so.
And 350 litres isn't a lot of water because if you think of this, an average geyser, which is a hot water cylinder in a home, uses 150 litres. to 200 litres. So there you've only got 150 litres left of drinking water, flushing water, washing up water, washing clothing water. So 350 litres isn't that much water, especially if you're an average family of 3 or 4. Then 350 litres is not a lot of water. And even 50 litres per person, we're a family of 5. We've got a baby, so baby needs bottles made, baby needs clothes washed. We've got kids that do sports at school, they need their clothing washed because they've got soccer and rugby and cricket. We've got clothing that needs to be washed. We need to flush, coffee, tea, basic things. So 50 litres a person is not a lot of water.
This is fine for the smaller dishes that we're doing, it's good enough. We'll just wash up here. Otherwise, when we do have a lot of dishes, like when I'm cooking, then what we do is we'll use the dishwasher, because on eco mode it uses less than 5 litres of water for the wash. We select eco. It's difficult to save water when you've got 3 children, so what we try to do is, especially with our older kids, is instead of wearing something once, we would ask them to wear it twice if it's clean, and then we try to do washing maybe once a week and just have one laundry day where we just do everything.
So in the toilet systems we've put bricks to basically displace from the water in the toilet system, so that instead of using 9 litres to fill up the system, we're only using something like 4 litres, which is more than enough to flush. So you can see we've got some more. So it's just normal garden bricks that you take and you break up and you put it in the toilet system. Also, you just need to be a bit more diligent with how much times you flush and how many times you actually need to flush. There's a saying going around in Cape Town also now with flushing, because flushing uses a lot of unnecessary water when people overflush. So the saying goes, if it's yellow, you can let it mellow. If it's brown, you flush it down. People have come up with this ingenious idea of buying these water sprayers at garden shops. And all you do is you pump it, and you put 5 litres in water here. And up to 4 people can shower. It does a gentle mist. Like that. And it's enough to shower. So what we do is we mount this in the shower, and you basically just shower yourself with this, and it's enough water for 4 people to shower. And it's so easy, one filling and one pump session, and it completely empties this thing. And it's cost effective. This thing costs about 200 Rand, which is about 10 euros, and we're able to shower 4 people off it every single night. In most cases we do use the shower, but this is when we really want to save. So at least twice a week we try and use the water sprayer.
Because now we had a lot of rain, so everything is fluffing up again. Yeah, we had to say goodbye to our garden. We can't water anymore. In the initial stages they said we could use the bucket system, where you could fill a bucket and throw it out on the garden. But it's quite difficult if you've got a lot of areas to water, so we just kind of had to let it go, and we'll just hope for the rain to come and everything can maybe grow again when it comes back. But for now we've got no grass, no plants, everything is just dead.
People are giving up on their gardens at home. They've been wrecked by the drought. And in that sense, we are going the wrong way around in terms of trying to cool down the city. We are raising the thermal temperatures around the city. And that's a real danger. That's not a climate change strategy. That is one which is putting us faster and faster into a climate change, or at least a local change in our weather patterns, in our microclimates that are around the city. It's about inviting vegetation into your home. Saving water is about growing the rain. How do we do that? And in a microclimate, you can, through vegetation, cool down the surface, and you'll get much greater condensation and water available for both the plants and also for the soils. So, we need to probably get the message out. How do we grow the rain? And you grow it by building your gardens and keeping vegetation in your gardens and in public open spaces.
The efforts of everyone have contributed to put off day zero. The rigid model of restrictions is probably what has saved the city. Cape Town won't run out of water, but its citizens cannot return to old habits.
We're so used to being wasteful that it's a very difficult mindset to tell yourself that you can't just leave the tap running while you're brushing your teeth, or you can't flush every time you go to do a number one. So that is where the frustration comes in from a lot of people. It's about the people that's saving and the people that's not saving. I can't go to a foreign city and I know there's a plight for hunger, but I'm throwing food away. So if you're coming to Cape Town and you know that there's, and I mean it's all over the news, and it's when you're driving from the airport you see all the signs that says save water. You can't come here and still come with a mindset where you just nonchalant and you still leave a tap running. Because at the end of the day, when your holiday's over and you leave, you've left such a negative mark for us that we have to bear the burden once you've gone. So you kind of need to be mindful about that and kind of be sympathetic and towards what we're going through, because it can go away, but it can also be really, really serious. Cape Town will be the first major city ever to run out of water. And I mean, if you say it, it sounds normal, but if you really think about it, for a city to run out of water, it's an extreme thing.
I think also the issue is when there is a crisis, people lose their compassion for each other. Like you were saying about that video you saw, I mean, we're all going through it together, so why not be equal and share?
Hence the issue of, I think, educating the public. That should be priority for the government to do. Because if people are still confused about what is happening, you know, chances of them taking those preventative measures are quite minimal now. So if we educate them, that will really assist. Yeah, I think especially with the recent rains that we had, when you're looking at the group of ignorance people, they believe, no, we got a lot of rainfall, there was floods even, and then now they will eventually start misusing water, whereas it's actually not the case. We did get floods, we did have heavy rain events, but still we are not even halfway where we're supposed to be. We're sitting with a huge crisis here.
You know, the whole idea of standing under a nice hot shower for 10-15 minutes, you know, is ridiculous. And we must move away from it and never ever return to that again, even if your dams are overflowing. The new term people very often use is the new normal. The things we're doing now should become part of our life in future.
Anybody needs help?
Okay, you will be a little bit relaxed maybe, but not go back to the old ways of dealing with water. Last week I did a presentation to 200 children in school. And I said to them, okay, you're supposed to brush your teeth 2 times a day. If you close the tap while you're brushing, you can save 1 liter of water. 1 liter in the morning, 1 liter in the afternoon, so it's 2 liters. We've got 200 people in the hall here, so it's 400 liters per day. It's 2,800 liters per week. And I'll calculate and I'll show them in 7 weeks, the water that all of us can save can fill 1 swimming pool. You know, you can tell them 1,000 liters or you can tell them 1,000,000 liters, they don't know what it means. But all of a sudden, if they can see the picture, this huge swimming pool, we can save that water in 7 weeks, if all of us close the tap while we're brushing our teeth. Cape Town will be the first big city in the world that run out of water. But I think there's currently about 7 or 8 big cities in exactly the same position. So it's not only limited to South Africa. But I think we through all the efforts, and that's a combined effort between the city and the resident, have really achieved wonderful results. Bringing it down to 50 litres per person per day has never been done even anywhere in the world. In Australia and their big drought, they managed to bring it down to 114 litres per person per day. We more than 50% down on that. So it's really a very, very good achievement and something that the rest of the world can learn from us. How did we go about, what did we do?
Will we continue to leave the tap turned on indefinitely? Will we continue to waste without thinking? Water is the most precious resource we have. Australia, Mexico, California. Each of these places is threatened by water scarcity, and they risk running dry. There's always something we can do. Drought is a global issue. It's not somebody else's problem, because it's going to be everybody's problem. One day, it could be your problem. Today, when we talk about fighting against climate change and preserving natural resources, we could be much more useful than we believe. Perhaps we can begin reorganizing our way of thinking and our habits, starting with water.